This blog revisits the agent evaluation framework, which was announced last June in the Data and AI Summit in San Francisco. And if you've never heard of it, mainly is our way to help you evaluate your Gen AI and LLM applications. We know this is a complex problem because actually, in these applications, you can send anything you have in mind and wait for an answer. So it's really difficult to know what exactly you should evaluate and when your evaluation is enough for this product to go to production. So we have released a couple of features here that can help you. The first one is the built-in review UI, which is a UI served from a model serving endpoint, and you can share it with your stakeholders and the people who know your business, and they can go and crash test this Gen AI application before it goes to production, and it can actually give you some fine-tuned feedback, as we're going to see later. And the second one is the built-in LLM Judges that allows you to automate your feedback instead of doing this manually. So what you have is you have your baseline application. You have to collect some ground truth, which the previous review app helps you do that. And then you use this LLM as a judge to see how good or not the response from your application is against the ground truth. So this blog goes through a lot of details on how they come up with the different ways to judge and evaluate these applications. So feel free to go through this, but for now we're gonna go to the demo.
Yeah. Also, one quick thing is that the review UI can be used by any stakeholder, even those who are not technical. So this is very interesting when you need somebody who's an SME but doesn't necessarily know Python or
Exactly.
SQL.
Very good point. So this is how the review app looks like. It looks like a chatbot app where you can serve your models here and start hitting it with questions. So for example, here was the question, what are cores in Spark, right? And this is the answer of my bot. And then what I can do is I can go and actually edit the response if I think it is wrong. And then I can save it. And then I can give it different feedback. So the feedback looks like this. Is this good or a bad response, or I don't know? And then how accurate, relevant, safe, and all of these things that we do care about when we are having, customer facing applications. And also you can add any feedback you want yourself. So remember that you can edit the response that the model returns, because this is important for building this evaluation dataset and the ground truth dataset we said before. And then you can actually tag it against the different criteria you want. Another thing to mention here is that in this criteria, you can start actually creating your own after a point, and you can judge your application against your own criteria too. All of these responses are logged in a Delta table as well, so then you can use it. All the data is logged and stored for you if you want to go back and see what people have said about the application. Now, if you want to do the LLM as a judge, what do you need to do? Let's first focus on the fact that you have to build this ground truth dataset, this evaluation dataset. So the first thing is to actually iterate with some people that manually will give you some good responses or evaluate the responses from your current application, so that then you have a curated list of great quality examples. Now, if the quality of the dataset of the ground truth is not good, obviously your evaluation won't work and the product will go in production with no evaluation performed actually at that point. So the first thing,
yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also you don't even need to have tons of ground truth examples, right? You can really start small.
You can start small. You have to make sure that your evaluation dataset covers all the different points you want to hit, right? You want to validate that your application is safe. Okay, you have to have a couple of examples about this. You want to evaluate that it returns some accurate responses against some specific questions. Well, you have to have a couple of questions on this. It doesn't have to be like millions and millions of rows of questions, right? That's why we're saying iterate with your stakeholders first, collect a couple of feedback points that make sense, and then start iterating fast. So in here, what we're actually doing is creating this curated dataset. So unfortunately, we didn't have anyone to give us feedback, so we go manually and create the dataset, and it looks like this. We send a couple of questions. This is the expected result. And in case you have it is a RAG app, you can actually provide some specific context into their application. This is optional. And what is the expected response as well. So, okay, so this is the question. This is the response from your application. This is what the application should have answered. And this is some extra context to be sure it can actually track and see how correct and ground to truth the answer was. And then what you can do.
When it says retrieve context, is it because it's a RAG application or is it something else?
So in this case, yes. So the retrieve context is if you have a regular application, you can evaluate this by providing what would have been the right part of the document to answer this specific question. Yes.
Got it.
And then what you need to do is do MLflow.evaluate. So this is the evaluate function that we are calling from MLflow. We are passing our evaluation dataset, and we have to say that that the model type is the Databricks evaluation, the Databricks agent, and that hits the agent evaluation framework.
Got it. So I think we did a number of videos in the past about LLM as a judge before it was integrated into the Databricks platform, right? Because it was already used as a technique where you would just take an LLM and use this LLM to evaluate all the outputs from all the LLMs that you wanted to compare. But so what you're saying here is that now it's part of the Databricks platform. It's been fine-tuned by Databricks. And so in order to call it, I just need to do MLflow.evaluate and then have Databricks agent as model type. Is that right? Or do I need to set anything else?
You don't even need to have logged it as a model at that point. So you can just hit this evaluate function, you pass your data set, and then it's going to go and evaluate your results against the ground truth, which looks like this.
Amazing.
So, we had 2 questions, if you remember. And what happened in this evaluation dataset is we said, these are the questions we want to evaluate. This is the response from our application. So think of this that this is someone asked this question to the bot and the bot returned this one, where it should have returned this one, right? Okay, this is what we're saying.
Yes.
So what it goes and says that for your first question, actually, it failed against a couple of criteria, right? So it is safe and it has some specific context that is relevant. Here it explains exactly what happened, right? So it is incorrect. So it explains why I found it incorrect, like what data into the answer that the LLM gave, it was against the ground truth. So not grounded, so the data you provided are not consistent in the provided context. It is irrelevant, so actually it replies something completely irrelevant that is not even correct. So as an overall test, this one, it's not passing. So it goes and tracks all of these different criteria against what you want to do. Now, the interesting thing here is that we can expand this evaluate function and add other criteria specific to our business. And that is really beautiful. So here, instead of just having correct, relevant, blah, blah, you could say, does it use my business language or something like that? Or is this, does it have a familiar tone or anything like that you would like to see and judge your application against?